economic philosophy stinks. It doesn't work, and it hammers working class people.
It's Monday, November 20th, 2017. Welcome to Raging Chicken's Out the Coop podcast. Yes, I did say Monday, everybody. We weren't able to get to you on Friday. I had some kid stuff to deal with. I was on a field trip. So here we are on Monday, early Monday morning, to get something out to you before Thanksgiving. This is Raging Chicken's Out the Coop podcast, and I am Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken Press. Each week, I talk to our Capitol muckraker-in-chief, Sean Kitchen, about the good, the bad, and the ugly in state and national politics. In today's show, we're going to blow through a bunch of stuff here, folks. Talk maybe a little bit about some of the Paradise Papers that were just released, exposing the world's billionaires to the light of day. Koch brothers back a bid to buy Time Incorporated. Yeah, that's the publisher of Time Magazine, People, Fortune, and Sports Illustrated. Yeah, they're teaming up with Meredith Corp in order to get that. That'll pair well with the big Xmas gift, early Xmas gift, that Sinclair Media got this past week. Basically going to give the pro-Trump media organization pretty much everything it wants. You pair that with what's being called next-gen TV, and we're in for it. The GOP tax plan is through the House, and the Senate is looking to kind of get it passed before the year's out. That could just basically stick it to every kind of, middle-class, working-class person in the country while giving the vast majority of the benefits to the top 0.2%. And Al Franken goes down amidst allegations of sexual harassment, and he's actually issued the apology, so he's kind of taken ownership of that one. Will Franken stay around? We'll see. You may have seen the great piece by Colleen Clemens this past week, published on Raging Chicken, about her experience with the alt-right trolls kind of attacking her. You may have listened also to Colleen Clemens' interview on Out the Coop Xtra. That was released last week. We'll talk a little bit about that, but I'd encourage you to go back and read what Colleen had to say and then listen to an interview. It was a real good one. PA Student Power Network is in full mode organizing for free tuition. You can check out their little call to action on Raging Chicken. The March on Harrisburg is in Harrisburg now. Direct actions begin today, and Sean Kitchen will be there. Rick Saccone, our favorite Rick Saccone, is nominated to replace Tim Murphy. Let the games begin. And I picked up that I mentioned it on the last podcast that Free Will released Blue Farm, and it was fantastic. And Saucony's Creek first crawler release is out this Wednesday. The Northeast IPA, Thornder on a pogo stick. The can release tickets are sold out from what I understand, though. So I'll tell you a little bit about that. And we'll give you some programming updates. So tune into the Rick Smith Show on Free Speech TV this and every Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern. I'll be there giving the weekly resistance report. Well, actually, not this week. It was a little crazy, so we're not going to give it this week, but Rick is always there. You can stream the show live at freespeech.org. You can also tune in on Dish Network, DirecTV, and through Free Speech TV app on Roku. If you missed the show, go to ricksmithshow.com and click on the Free Speech TV icon in the sidebar. I would actually encourage you to go to the Rick Smith Show podcast and listen to Friday's show. Friday's show. He talks a little bit about the sexual allegations and the crisis that is looking, that the Pennsylvania AFL-CIO is looking square into the face now after Josh Idelson's amazing piece kind of exposing some of the sexual harassment and sexual misconduct even within the labor movement. So Rick's got a lot to say about that. I tune you to check that one out. And if you like what you hear on Raging Chicken, you like what you read on Raging Chicken Press, hey, why don't you support Pull No Punches Progressive Media? You can do that by becoming a member of Raging Chicken Press for as little as $5 a month. Simply go to ragingchickenpress.org and look for the Support and Membership tab. Click Become a Member and you're on your way. Not ready to become a member? No problem. You can make a one-time donation by clicking Donate. We've got an end-of-the-year membership special going right now. Chris Robey's book, Breaking the Spell, A History of Anarchist Filmmakers, Videotape Guerrillas, and Digital Ninjas. Well, that could be yours by becoming a member at the $10 a month level. right? It's our pick to close out 2017, and we're adding it to our bookshelf. So, become a member at the $10 a month level, and you can get that book too. We're also going to have some additional membership specials all through the month, the end of November and through the month of December, to try to kind of really hit the ground running for 2011. We've got a huge election season coming up, and we're gonna need you. One programming note before I kind of turn to Sean here is that next week, actually later this week now since we're on Monday, it is Black Friday, right? And Sean has got some Walmart shopping to do. I mean, we got some. We're just gonna a bunch of traveling things like this. So I think we're just gonna take the day. We will not be here live recording a new episode. But what I'm hoping to do is pull some stuff from the archives so that you'll still have a show. Still have something to listen to over Thanksgiving if you're kind of a regular listener, and if the interview that I want to put up works out, it's going to be a good one. So look to our Facebook page. I'll do kind of some Facebook updates, maybe even a kind of little podcast update about what that's going to be before Thanksgiving. So here we go. So here it is, Sean. It is November. We are closing things out.
Yeah, I can't believe how late in the year it is now.
Yeah, November really has been a blur. It really, I mean, I had after my grandmother died and things like this, and having to go back and forth to Niagara Falls a couple times, that just kind of just put me behind the eight ball when it came to work, and then also just kind of took time and just disappeared it into the void.
Yeah, I mean, the season it's been going pretty fast for me. Being an Eagles fan, it's been a little fun watching this team. It's been flying by.
Oh, nice pun. It's been flying by. Fly, Eagles, fly, fly. Yeah, that's Sean's feeds have been fun to watch on Eagles game day.
Oh yeah, and I'm a little tired right now. I was up till like 2 a.m. Reveling in the Eagles' victory. And plus, it's the Cowboys. I mean, the Eagles beat the Cowboys, and they didn't just beat them. They came out and just blew them out in the second half.
Yeah.
And anytime, so there's one quick stat, it's not going to be a sports podcast, I promise. Since 2000, the Cowboys have lost by 22 points or more 23 times. Mm-hmm. 11 of those games were against the Eagles.
It's glorious. As growing up, a Steelers fan, right? That's glorious.
Yeah,
I know there's the kind of the Eagles fans hate Steelers and Steelers fans hate Eagles thing. I don't have any of that.
It's more of like a mutual all right, this one franchise is doing it the right way, the other one hasn't, and it's just more of a jealousy. But the thing with Cowboys fans is Cowboy fans aren't even real fans. I don't even think they know the last time they won a Super Bowl was, or a playoff game for that fact.
I'll tell you, I grew up in the 70s watching the Steelers, and so the rivalries with the Cowboys were always huge. But the thing that bothered me most about them, why I just could never stand the Cowboys, right, is because they were always so clean. Right? It was I'm football is not a clean sport, and they seem like this antiseptic corporate team, which is kind of what they are. But
yeah, the Jerry World.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I don't know if have you followed much of the stuff on the Paradise Papers that have been released?
No, I saw a bunch of Paradise Papers released, and that's about it.
That's about it. It's they're fascinating. We're not going to.
I know Bono and a bunch of other people got caught up in it.
It's huge, right? I mean, if you take that, and if you remember that there was the Panama Papers that were released. A while again, exposing some of this kind of offshoring, this kind of hiding of kind of billions of dollars. The journalist who broke some of that out in Malta was actually just recently killed in a car bomb, right? So I mean, it shows you kind of what we're playing with here, and the Paradise Papers are just implicates. I mean, celebrities, corporations, obviously, and a whole bunch of people from the Trump administration and things like this. It's just an amazing example of what is possible when you have kind of good muckraking investigative journalism. We're not going to really get into this today, but I do want to come back to them probably after Thanksgiving, where we can kind of dig in a little bit and just to kind of talk through a little bit some of the findings in this, because it's absolutely remarkable. Truly, this international consortium of investigative journalists, global consortium, worked on these papers to put this together. It's amazing. And there's recently a great podcast on Reveal.
Yeah.
They just talked about the some stuff of the Paradise Papers, which is a great podcast. So
it's amazing how serious they take that. I mean, like when they went in there, everyone had to have their phones off, like in that room to talk about the papers.
Yeah, there was what was it? Süddeutsche Zeitung. Süddeutsche Zeitung. I used to be able to pronounce that. But
the German newspaper that broke the Panama Papers is the one that broke this.
Right.
And the funny thing is, when I was at the Bernie Sanders rally in Gettysburg last year for the primary, they actually had beat reporters out of Washington D.C. Following this election around everywhere. You know, I think I've told this story many times on the podcast, but you know, the people coming from this German newspaper are more forward looking about the landscape in the media, especially in Europe, than versus the landscape in the media out here in the United States. You know, you talk to one of the Washington Post reporters there, and he's like, "I'll probably be the last full-time person they ever hire."
Yep.
And it's some old grizzly guy in his 50s, like, where like this guy, you know, is being put up in Washington D.C. by his newspaper, by this German newspaper, and actually being sent around the country following this, following the election around.
Yeah, it's pretty. I mean, it's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing, and I think, and I kind of want to come back to them in part because it shows you an example of what good journalism looks like. I also want to get a shout about Tarbell. Is that it's another investigative media outlet that just started. I actually became a member of Tarbell too as well. It's an independent journalism, and they just released their first basically round of investigative reports around basically on big pharma and how they keep drug prices high. That first came out. The cool thing about this, why I wanted to give them a shout out as we're talking about some of the media stuff right now, they're actually based out of Philadelphia. Right, so they definitely said, you know, we're not going to go in New York City. We are not going to be based in Washington D.C. They chose Philadelphia, kind of between those two, and they're doing some really incredible investigative work. So we have to keep our eyes on that. So you've got the Paradise Papers that came out. You've got the launch of Tarbell. I think pretty sure since we last spoke. The one thing that I wanted to bring into relief today is that there was two stories that came up this past kind of week and a half or so that have potential devastating consequences for really good hard-hitting reporting. And one of the reasons why Sean and I have been talking a lot about really needing to kind of gear up on our membership campaign and to actually bring on some more reporters and actually to pay some more reporters more, because we're going to need people that are going to be digging in 2018. So there's this corporation. It's called the Meredith Corporation, and Meredith Corporation, they own I believe it's like Better Homes and Gardens and Family Circle, those kind of magazines. Well, they have been putting in a call to buy Time Incorporated, and Time Incorporated owns about around 100 titles, when those include things like Time Magazine, People, Fortune, Sports Illustrated, and so on. Well, so Meredith has been after this to kind of add it to their quote-unquote media portfolio for a while. It was about to fall through until the Koch brothers showed up with about $500 million to back the sale. So an additional $500 million to purchase Time Inc. Is going to be the kind of thing, at least as it's been reported, is going to be very, very difficult from Time to kind of say no to, because the money is just huge. So put this in relief. I mean, we know that the Koch brothers have been, active in influencing media and building these kind of this alternative media infrastructure, this alternative think tank infrastructure. But what this does, it basically puts them in a position where they could reach much more popular audiences. We were talking about Time Magazine, People, and Fortune, right? You think about those three targets. Time Magazine, which is basically remaking itself for the digital era. It's kind of a broad base, seen as kind of like, kind of a middle of the road kind of news perspective. People, just kind of like celebrity news and gossip and little stuff about culture and politics. And then Fortune was targeted toward the business class. I mean, you look at those three publications alone, those are basically the kind of thing that if the Kochs decide that they want to control over those three, right, could have a significant impact on what takes place or the kind of media that we're going to have access to in the coming years. So it's pretty nuts, man.
Yeah.
The other part of that, the second part of it has to do with what's just took place with Sinclair Media. Now, for those of you, I mean, Sean has talked about this before. I've talked about this before. We've talked about this on the podcast. Sinclair Media is basically, the emerging rival to Fox, right? The more kind of aggressive, upstart, right-wing, pro-Trump media group that is looking for ways to kind of remake the way that local news happens, to remake what kind of political content gets put out there. Sean kind of drew attention to this, I think, I don't know if it was over the summer or the fall, where Sinclair basically bought out, was it the Tribune Corporation, right?
Yes, and they pretty much, or they will pretty much own, like, once this deal gets approved, a bunch of other newspapers in Pennsylvania, including the Morning Call, is one of them.
Which is huge.
They're going to be owning a couple more TV stations, a bunch of TV stations in your smaller media markets like Scranton, Wilkes-Barre, Central Pennsylvania, the Delmar, Central Pennsylvania, Maryland area, and stuff like that. So, there's a bunch of other smaller market stations out here between like Lancaster and say Frederick, or Lancaster and Baltimore, that that you normally don't see crossing state lines like that, the market area.
Yeah.
But they're buying up these small TV stations that are like that, and that will run the local news.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. So here's how this was reported in Mother Jones. It says, quote, on Thursday, the Republican-led Federal Communications Commission voted on a series of actions that would eliminate regulations for local media ownership while approving new TV broadcast standard developed by Sinclair. Both decisions will likely result in a major windfall for the Maryland-based company, paving the way for Sinclair's proposed $3.9 billion merger with Tribune Media and for the widespread adoption of its next-gen TV service, which I'll talk about in a second. Now, that whole thing, so the buying of Tribune, right? So here's what was going to happen. Before Thursday's vote, this is again from Mother Jones, Sinclair faced the prospect of having to offloading some of its stations if the Tribune deal went through in order to stay under the national ownership cap for broadcast companies, another rule the Trump FCC could potentially jettison. But Andrew J. Schwartzman of the Communications and Technology Law Clinic at the Georgetown Institute for Public Representation says the FCC's latest round of deregulation may allow Sinclair to retain more of its stations should the Tribune deal get approved. Quote, and this is speaking from Schwartzman, it makes it possible for the deal to go through, and the changes yesterday reduce or completely eliminate the number of stations they'll have to divest from, Schwartzman says. In short, thanks to the FCC, Sinclair would emerge from the Tribune merger even larger and more lucrative than previously expected. Right, so this is a potentially enormous deal, and the fact that you've got legislation and an approach to regulation that was developed by the very company, right, that needs this regulation to go through in order to expand its approach to media ownership is just like, in my mind, this is corporatocracy at its worst. It's nuts.
Yeah. I was going to say, like, one of the things that I've noticed, so like it's different. It's interesting seeing how the news is portrayed locally, knowing that these outfits are owned by Sinclair Media Group. Mm-hmm. In Harrisburg, there's two of them that are owned by that, but one CBS 21. And just seeing, like, when they report on Donald Trump's tweets and stuff like that, how it's like, it's walking that line of being, of like showing him the tweets and everything, like trying to be fair, but it's also like you're putting the tweets that they're putting up there are some fairly poignant tweets against a certain subset of people. Mm-hmm. Like, these scumbags or something like that. And,
right.
You put that up there, across the whole entire TV screen, like the president calling someone a bunch of scumbags, that's going to change their view on some certain things.
Yeah, well, I imagine there's,
it's interesting seeing how they're using Trump's tweets and social media stuff, but playing in a way where it's favorable towards him and towards that thinking.
Yeah, and this is how this stuff happens too, right? I mean, is that choices get made that are very subtle, but nonetheless shift in what way? Because look, all these people that are in broadcasting, that are whether script writers, all that kind of stuff, they're concerned about their jobs now. right? And they know kind of what Sinclair Media is. They know, a lot of stations are going to be running kind of nationally syndicated content developed by Sinclair Media that's going to be shipped to its local affiliates to run during their newscast. There's been kind of like different kinds of reporting on this. Some suggestion that it is strongly encouraged that each local station runs this content, and it's kind of this kind of right wing, like off the right wing commentary presented in a kind of reasonable fashion. But that could have a huge shift in balance of power.
Yeah.
Oh, crazy. The one thing that's paired with the last thing I'll mention on this, because, I just want to give people that sense of like, this is what's happening on the right. The right is going after all this kind of media consolidation. They're getting rules kind of rewritten in the FCC. It looks like that net neutrality is on the chopping block, right, which is going to reduce the access that we have for venues on the left if that goes through. And now you've got Sinclair Media's other platform, which you mentioned in that piece from Mother Jones, is this idea about next gen TV. And basically what that does is if you look at the kind of analytics that Google uses and Facebook uses in order to track, their users to kind of, for their likes and dislikes and so on, they want to apply that to TV viewing. Right, so basically real time. I don't know how that's going to happen. Not exactly sure, but they're going to build in the analytics into the content. So why does that matter? Well, you've got a right wing kind of media organization that most people are unaware of that will be tracking content and be able to deliver content to different kinds of people. Plus, they'll have our information. They'll have our data. Right. That's the kind of thing that should be deeply concerning. And you put all that stuff together, and this is why, if I'm sounding a little bit alarmist right here, it's only simply because I can recognize what we're in for, because a lot of the issues that we see playing out themselves on a national scale right now are coming to Pennsylvania in 2018.
Yeah.
Nuts, man. So, Sean, what'd you think of the tax plan this week?
It's bad.
Yeah. I'll say.
I mean, it seems like it's the type of thing they just want to get done before they lose in the midterms.
Yeah. Well, if they can get this through and they can make some of these things permanent, right, they're not going to have to care. They're going to be taken care of for the rest of their lives.
Yeah. So it's like, get it done with now, screw the people over, and then we lose our jobs, but the deed is done.
Yep, that's exactly what they're going to do, and I don't think they care after that point. I think it was I can't remember if it was Paul Ryan who said this, but basically said, "Look, if we can't get this done, then what good are we? Right? What good are we as a party? Because basically, this is who we are, right? About cutting taxes for the rich. It's just it's pretty. Incredible.
I know they were talking about this going back to Lloyd Smucker's breakfast with the
right.
The breakfast we went to back in the last winter. Now back in like February. Lloyd Smucker's, was basically saying, the people coming up to my office are, I got people constituents visiting my office all the time. It's the tax lobbyists and the healthcare industry.
Yeah.
I mean, he told that to the Chamber of Commerce straight up, like, no. The only phone calls I'm getting are from you guys.
No, exactly. And that's kind of where we're at. And, the Senate bill, there's this back and forth right now in the Senate bill because the House bill passed. The House bill did not go after the Affordable Care Act's individual mandate, the Obamacare's individual mandate for health insurance. The Senate bill, the proposed bill that's been kind of making its rounds out, does go after that individual mandate, which would result in at least 13 million people getting kicked off insurance and about a 10% increase in healthcare costs in the next 5 years. Right, so you're going to see that kind of stuff. There's some pushback on that, and recently. Mick Mulvaney came out and basically said the Trump administration would be fine if that's not part of the bill. So it looks like they're willing to let that go. This may be the theater that we're about to witness about some good Republicans going to bat because save Medicare and save kind of the expansion and save Obamacare so that they can get these permanent tax cuts through. That's what I see kind of setting up here. So.
Yeah, and this is also decades of bad messaging from Democrats on this.
You think?
I mean, like I was kind of think like, what have the Democrats done to, garner a 2018 victory? Really nothing. I mean, if anything's going to happen, people are just going to vote against the Republicans because of how pissed off they are. But I mean, like this is, you know, this is where you have to put messaging in. No, we cut taxes, you lose services.
Yep.
Or you lose money if we cut taxes.
Yep, it's pretty. I mean, and you can see it all play itself out here. And there's some things in this bill that are pretty nuts. I mean, you know, one that the vast majority of the you know, of the money of the savings, quote unquote, goes right to the top. I mean, big businesses, corporations are basically going to see their taxes reduced, from the tax rate reduced from 35% to 20%. It's one of the biggest one-time drops in business tax rate ever, right? Republicans love to talk about how high these, high the tax rates are, but really, so many of these large corporations pay the effective tax rate of 0, right? In some cases, some of them get money back, right? Precisely because of all the loopholes that they've got to go through here. They're going to be able to bring back all the money that they've been hiding overseas, right, at a 12% tax rate, like really, very extraordinarily low tax rate. So they'll be able to bring it in there and to basically pay off their investors and reward their CEOs. That will not go into. I mean, we saw this play itself out last week. This will not go into investing in businesses and investing in new jobs. It's going to be about lining the pockets of the people who are already rich. You also got, for example, the estate tax is the thing that kills me, man. Now, so basically the estate tax, look, estate tax is basically when you have assets that are worth over $5.5 million, and you pass it on to your heirs, right? That there's a hefty tax rate on that, right? However, what they have, what they basically what they're basically doing is saying, instead of $5.5 million, we're going to up that to kind of $11 million before you have to pay any tax on it. Because we think it's more important that Ivanka is taken care of in her elder years. So we're just going to make sure that that goes through.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like the Rockefellers have survived or something.
No, exactly. I mean, you had some of the folks that, even.
I mean, it's not like the Rockefellers are panhandling on, on Broadway or something like that, or down in Times Square for money. It looks like they've been taken care of with the estate taxes as where they're at right now.
No, exactly. And they're doing this little trick. I don't know if you saw this, but in what they're planning on doing in taxes is that basically you're going to see about 92% of kind of Americans will actually, like initially for the first 5 years, will pay less in taxes or see little change. Right, because there is this, it's like a, I don't know what you call it, like a tax break for middle class, right? So especially those folks that are earning between $40,000 and $75,000 per year. After 5 years, that goes away, right? That whole kind of like tax break for those folks, that goes away. So now that group of people for making between $40,000 and $75,000 will now have their tax rate jump dramatically. And if it's made permanent, that's permanent, right? Meanwhile, those people at the very top are going to get just floored. I mean, it's crazy.
And let's also not forget we're going to fuck over college students.
Yeah,
and college graduates, grad students.
Yeah, no more interest deductions for your student loans. And if you're a grad student, that you're going to basically having to pay almost triple the amount of tax than basically on your income, because they're basically going to count. They're planning on counting your tuition, right? Your tuition waiver, right? So if you're a graduate student and you get a teaching assistantship or a research assistantship, basically what happens is that you get a small stipend somewhere in the neighborhood of between $10,000 to $15,000 a year. Sometimes less, kind of somewhere in that neighborhood to teach or to do research, right, in exchange for a tuition waiver, right? And so what you're taxed on are your actual earnings, right? What they want to do for this is basically say, no, you're going to get taxed on everything. So we're gonna cost it out as if you're paying tuition, or actually if they're giving you a check for $50,000 a year, and we're going to tax you at that rate. So basically, you're talking about your salary of that will be between $10,000 and $15,000 a year will basically probably be cut by a third, kind of just from these kind of taxes. They're also going to get rid of the deduction of medical expenses, right? They're also going to get rid of kind of like little things like getting the cost of your tax preparations, moving expenses, right? all sorts of like little penny ante stuff, which is the little things that people normally like use, right? Especially if they're kind of in hardship or they're trying to better themselves in education. Really the people that are kind of solidly in the middle of the income earners are the ones that are going to get hit the hardest by this. So I don't know. I mean, so over Thanksgiving break, everybody pay attention to what's going on, see what's happening in the Senate, and call your senators. Call you prepared, because they are planning on having something ready to go after the Thanksgiving break. So we need to kind of, basically get prepared to come back fighting. So I don't know, man. It's been quite a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Crazy. Oh man, Sean, anything else on the tax bill or any of this stuff?
No, I think I'm good.
I think I'm good. Sean's a little tired today. I'm a little tired today. We're up early trying to get this done, trying to get something out to you before I have to go to work and before Sean gets his 7th cup of coffee of the day. Right? All right, so listen, we're going to take a quick little break, and when we come back, we're going to get into some stuff here locally in Pennsylvania, and then we'll give you a little happy Thanksgiving beer news and kind of Thanksgiving wishes. This is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken Press. We'll be back right after this short break.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1896. That was the day anarchist and labor activist Rose Posada was born. Her name, Raquel Piasotti, was changed like so many others at Ellis Island. She had fled Tsarist Russia in 1913 as a teenager and soon found work in New York City's garment shops. She readily joined the ILGWU, becoming a national organizer by 1920. In the late 1920s, Rose went to Los Angeles in an attempt to organize Latina sweatshop workers. There, she helped women workers establish a bilingual labor journal and assisted them in winning a key strike for recognition and higher wages in 1933. She soon ascended to the position of union vice president and worked closely with the newly formed CIO. Rose traveled far and wide to organize garment workers. She led successful strikes throughout the United States and in Montreal and Puerto Rico. By 1936, she was on the picket lines with striking rubber workers in Akron, Ohio, and auto workers in Flint, Michigan. She increasingly found herself at odds with ILGWU head Dave Dubinsky and other top male union officials over persistent sexism, her radical politics, and her opposition to the no-strike pledge during World War II. Rose resented the fact that though women comprised the overwhelming majority of the union's membership, she continued to be the only woman union officer. Frustrated by the chauvinism she experienced, Rose resigned from her post as vice president and later from the ILGWU executive board in 1944. She continued as a sewing machine operator, remained active at the local level, and published 2 memoirs. Later in life, she aligned herself with the civil rights movement. Rose Posada died of cancer in 1965.
Labor History in 2 brought to you by the Illinois Labor History Society and The Rick Smith Show.
Welcome back to Raging Chicken's Out to Coop podcast. It is a special Monday edition because I basically couldn't get my act together last week due to going on a field trip with my daughter, which was awesome, by the way. I went to the Crayola factory. It was a whole lot of fun. It was the first time I got to go with her on our field trip since she started elementary school, so that was pretty cool. But before we get into a whole bunch of stuff, I want to draw people's attention to, once again, if you have not seen it already, what has happened this past week to Dr. Colleen Clemens. She's a professor at Kutztown University. What basically happened to her as getting attacked by the kind of right-wing trolls of the kind of Milo Yiannopoulos kind of irk or grouping or whatever you want to call them. So she wrote a great piece for Raging Chicken Press. I want to encourage everybody to go out there and check it out. And then listen to our Out to Coop Extra this past week where Colleen and I sat down to talk about her experience and kind of work through this whole idea about toxic masculinity. So, so definitely please check that out. Really important story. And I want to, emphasize that today, especially because today, right, we also get to wish Colleen Clemens a happy birthday. So This one's to you, Colleen, kind of feminist warrior, kind of neighbor here, and also just right around the corner at 254. Check out their podcast, 254, Inside 254, that she does with Amanda Morris, and then wish her a happy birthday if you can. The other thing I want to point out really quickly before we get into stuff on March in Harrisburg, PA Student Power Network is organizing for a campaign for free tuition. They had a training session this past week at Kutztown University. We had some people kind of get out to that. It was a really good session. They also published stuff on our site, basically raising awareness about their campaign, having a petition, urging people to get on board for their free tuition campaign. So look out for that one too as well. Check out what they're doing at PA Student Power because it's pretty impressive. So, but speaking of pretty impressive, today is March on Harrisburg 2.0. Basically, we'll be gearing up today. Is that right, Sean?
Well, that was last week.
Well, I'm sorry. Well, this is a continuation, but it's the same organization. I'm sorry. I'm getting all confused.
It's okay. Someone's got a case of the Mondays here.
No, I've had a bad couple weeks here.
No, so the March on Harrisburg was here last week.
Right.
They had a direct action on Monday, result in the arrest of 5 people dressed up as Waldo in Waldo costumes.
Which were great pictures, by the way, Sean. Those were awesome pictures.
Yeah, and thank you very much. They were dressed up as Waldo, having a Where's Waldo themed protest outside of Daryl Metcalf's doors. And what they do, they had to sit in, and then they stood up and started blocking people from going down the main hallway of the Capitol. You had some people, like some of the labor-oriented lobbyists, went up there, said, "Okay, there's a protest." They went up to the line, turned around, and went around the other way. Then you had some assholes who were trying to actually physically break through the line of people, and we got some great pictures of that and video and stuff like that. It was a pretty like in your face direct action for something happening in the Capitol on an off day.
Yeah,
and 5 people got arrested. The pictures are absolutely amazing. Seeing these like people dressed up as Waldo costumes. One of the guy, John Randolph, is like tall, lanky guy, gray hair, like slick back, and they had like these like jazz masters or club masters on, the Ray-Ban club masters with like the Waldo hat and the uniform. And here you see like this tall, lanky, skinny, pissed off dude like telling these people, "No, you can't pass." So the one person who tried to pass through this line gets an argument is the House chief clerk. I don't have his name in front of me right now. The guy who runs the chief clerk's office is trying to get past where this guy John was at on the end of the line. He's like, "No, sorry, you can't get through." And the look on his face is like here's this like I got the shot of like the back of the head, the conversation going on, and the guy has like his lip up like here's like this Waldo here trying to tell me like I can't go through. What the fuck is happening here? And so he tries to force his way through the line on the other side where like this old person and a woman was standing. And eventually he gets through, but if they weren't linking arms, one of the older people there would have fell on her butt, would have fallen over because of the way this guy tried to force his way through.
Man, crazy. So what's going
on today? After, all right,
sorry, my bad.
A better story. So after these people are being taken into custody, this fucking bootlicker is just standing right where the cops are dragging these people and go, "Thank you, officer. Thank you, officer. Thank you, officer. Thank you, officer." As like, "Thank you for doing your job." So I got another picture of him like fucking thanking the police people. Yeah, it was yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's like thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
These creatures, they interrupted my day. I had to like walk around a different stairwell to get down here. Like, to get where he was going, all he had to do is turn around, go down the steps, and go down the hallway, and you're right in the Capitol cafeteria.
Thank you for doing that, sir. They were interfering with my precious.
Yeah. It's you get to figure out who the bootlickers were that day.
Yeah, I bet. Crazy. So what's going on today?
Today there's going to be direct action. I do not know what's going on. They just sent me got a message from a few of the people say, hey, just show up here at like so this time, and then record. We'll see what's happening. And so I have to go over there at a certain time, and we'll have some fun.
So there you go. So stay tuned to Raging Chicken Press later on today. Look at the Facebook feeds and the site too as well, and you'll see. That's all we know, folks.
You know what's gonna happen? It's gonna be crazy.
Thinking about crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. You got it.
So,
I mean, it's basically it's a synonym, right? It's like for like someone who is not in complete command of reality. Let's put it that way.
all right, so there are jokes about Rick Saccone in the Pennsylvania House among his own legislators in his caucus. We're like, yeah, we don't fuck with him because he waterboarded people back in 2002, 2003, 2004. Like, people are like, dude, the guy's waterboarded people. We don't mess with him. These are like quotes you get off the record from members of that caucus. And
I always find that so weird though when people say that, because it's like if you're in a military unit, right, and you have a prisoner, right, and you are armed to the teeth and you are armored and you have someone who's basically handcuffed, like head bagged, right, and has been beaten and deprived of nutrition and water, right, and all this other kind of stuff, and then you waterboard him, I don't see why you're a person that needs to be worried about. I mean, you're the biggest freaking coward in the world. Just because you've tortured someone just says that you're a horrible human being. It doesn't say that you have like your torture equipment in your back pocket.
so
Sean's like, whatever. We're going to
what I was going to say is the Republican Party decided to pick Rick Saccone to run for U.S. Congress in the special election coming up in March.
God save us all, Sean. God save us all.
I still love that video with him like, and my God will make a seed of a nation. Godly heritage.
Remember, God. This is the godly heritage guys, folks. The guy who basically wants to start a theocracy, right, and believes that that's what government is.
Is going to Congress. I had a really good story about this. Someone came in to work where I was bartending, and it's like, "Hey, did you hear the news about?" Did you hear the news? I'm like, no, what's going? Like, they know who I am, and these people are on the other side. And they're like, well, did you hear about Rick Saccone? And I'm like, I looked at, I was like, they did it.
He's like, oh, yeah.
He just looks at me, he's like, they did. I was just like, you got to be kidding me. He's like, he looked at me, he's like, we've been saying the same thing all fucking morning to each other. We can't believe he got picked. So supposedly there was some inside baseball going back there. Whoever wins, there was a pact between Saccone and a few other people running for that seat out there, like their delegates, that basically if so-and-so, if whoever gets past the first round of voting, they'll have their delegates support the one candidate because they were all against this one guy named Guy Renshaw, who's a state senator out there. I guess more of like your moderate business regular conservative, where you have like these like evangelicals. So you had a pack of like 3 Republicans or 4 Republicans against this one guy, and basically said, whoever gets past the first round of voting, we're all going to give our votes to that guy who's not Guy Renshaw. So basically, there was a suicide pact. Like whoever like gets into the next round will get all of our votes because we're not voting for him.
This is wow. So this is the best they got.
Well, I think Guy Renshaw was probably more of your moderate establishment pick.
Oh, God. Well, here we go. I mean, the clown car is going to be in full gear then. So what's the process here now for them?
Well, the candidates are already picked. So the candidates are already picked, and now it's the special election. So the House Democrats, they picked someone yesterday. Lamb is his last name. He's a 33-year-old federal prosecutor, and there were like 3 or 4 women on the ballot with like five men on like trying to vie for the seat as Democrats, and House Democrats decided to pick someone from a political family, powerful Pittsburgh political family, and make sure that Pennsylvania remains an all-male delegate to the U.S. Congress.
My gosh. You know,
So
especially
there is-
this would have been such an opportunity, especially after Tim Murphy, right? I mean, after what that guy did, right? You know, the abuse of his staff and all this other kinds of stuff. To have to actually put forward a strong progressive woman at this point, and you know, well, I mean, I don't know this guy from the hole in the wall who they picked, so I don't want to characterize his politics one way or another, but it's just kind of interesting to me.
Yeah, and well, like the one woman who was like the front runner for this, right, out of the female candidates, was a conservative Democratic county commissioner, and she says, "Yeah, I'll be a Republican on everything but labor."
Are you serious?
Yeah, that was the person who was like supposedly like number 2
Oh my God.
in the running.
Oh well, you know, deep bench, right? Oh my God. Crazy.
Yeah.
Oh man. So any other news and blues from the Capitol, Sean?
No, nothing really. Nothing too much going on. Oh yeah, today there is a House vote. You know, instead of calling for a resolution on curbing gun violence,
Yeah.
there's a House resolution vote today in the committee to stop the spread of pornography. So there's that.
Because that is at the forefront of everybody's thing. So I guess they want to kind of dominate the Thanksgiving table with discussions of porn over this break. I guess that's what it is, right? They don't want anything to kind of get in the way of their shopping, right? On coming Black Friday,
Shopping for toys,
especially the kind of the fake gun
black,
lobby,
long-barreled toy.
right? Exactly. Cabela's kind of probably was like, oh, wait, just talk about porn. Just talk about porn. Don't talk about guns, talk about porn. Right? Come look at the stuffed animals. Don't talk about porn.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Oh man. So this is probably the most exhausted I've been on a podcast, Sean, and it has nothing to do with I don't know. I'm just kind of I've basically got to a point in this fall where I feel like I've run out of steam, and I certainly can use a Thanksgiving break, I think.
Yeah.
So crazy. Well, okay, we're going to take one last quick break. We're going to come back with the last call. We'll keep it quick. Got a couple stories, folks, and then we will wish you a happy Thanksgiving. But for now, we're just going to take this quick break. This is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken. We'll be right back. This is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken Press. Over the past 6 years, we've brought unapologetic, progressive, activist media to Pennsylvania and beyond. We've helped hold those in power accountable and shine a light on some amazing activist work. We've broken national stories and established a reputation as an aggressive, independent media site. As newsrooms close and traditional journalists lose their jobs, hard-hitting investigative news suffers. If we care about our democracy, we have to find new, sustainable models of journalism. And frankly, no one's going to do it for us. After the Trump election, we dug in even deeper. Thanks to some longtime members, one-time donations, and a shift in other resources, we brought on more writers and started paying them. Now we're doubling down and want to expand our infrastructure and pay our writers even more. We need to invest in our media if we have a chance to resist the unprecedented assault on democracy, working families, women's rights, and our planet. History will remember the choices we make today. So take a minute to become a member of Raging Chicken Press. For as little as $5 a month, the price of a local craft beer or a cup of coffee, you will be supporting homegrown progressive journalists and media activists. Go to RagingChickenPress.org and click on the Support and Membership tab to become a member. Leave a one-time donation or learn about other ways that you can help. We don't have billionaire backers. Keeping progressive activist media going strong depends on you. Thank you for all your help and support. Keep up the fight. Welcome back, everybody. This is Kev Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken Press, and this is Out the Coop Podcast. Let's go! Yes, folks, we are making our way into Thanksgiving break. I should say we're kind of like stumbling into it. I was thinking about on a break. I was thinking about this has kind of been like one of our more freewheeling podcasts, and I it's not really freewheeling. It's more like driving like down dirt roads on flat tires kind of podcast.
Yeah, it's just like the type of thing. It's like either we miss a week or just stay consistent and put something out. And it's just like, we just decided to put something out this week. Might not be the best, but, it's just got to keep talking to everyone.
Well, it's one of these things, it's like, it's unfortunate because I really look forward to, Friday, I look forward to like every week, right? Kind of gets me through the days of like banging my head against the wall. Just so, I look at work and things like that. So it's just like, man, it's just whatever. The kind of nonsense you deal with on a daily basis in my job is amazing. I have to say that. I
had a fun encounter at the bar last night.
Oh, did you now?
I think, we were talking about this beforehand.
I was just trying to set you up, man. Like I know what you're talking about. Right? I was trying to do the conversation thing, but really, Sean? What are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about. My God. Fucking podcasting 101.
It's like I just whiffed at a T-ball.
Totally, exactly. It's like I threw you like you're out there. I threw you a freaking yoga ball to hit. You're I hit like no, that's not a yoga ball.
And you just like hit it straight down into the dirt,
right? Or let it hit you in the head.
No,
anyways, Sean, please do tell us your story about the bar last night.
So I go Midtown Tavern's right across the street from me in Harrisburg. It's a really great bar. It's pretty cool. It's a nice laid back neighborhood bar. And I'm sitting at, I had my first beer. It's like an hour before the game even starts. So I'm just like trying to pace myself to like halftime. It's only had like 3 beers up until like halftime. And first beer, I ordered a Sly Fox Lager. They had like their Hell's Lager on, which is pretty good. Not a whole big of a Sly Fox fan, but they do the German styles and the lagers, pilsners, and their like saisons really well.
Oh, they do. I've kind of been so on them. Yeah, they make a good beer. It's just not, it's not something that I go out and seek.
They're German style beers, and their Belgian beers are what they're known for.
Right, I'll look for some of that. I'll make sure I pick some.
So I'm sitting down. I drank this lager within like 2 minutes. It's just something like I gulp, and there's like half the beer gone. I'm like, shit, where'd the beer go? So I finished it off, and the bartender, one bartender comes over. Is like, "What do you want?" It's like, "I'll take a water." So I was like, "Okay." So I'm getting a water, and the one bartender, she looks at me, she pulls up my tab. She's like, "Wait, you had a Sly Fox?" It's like, "You want a Blizzard?" I'm like, "No, I'm getting a water." She's like, "What?" I'm like, "A water." And
you're like, "Come on, man, fly eagles fly,"
So at this point, like, I'm really, I'm under the influence of other things that's not alcohol related.
He's under the influence of prayer, everybody.
Yeah. So Mary Jane, and
he was brought up a good Catholic kid. Like in his schools, at least.
And so I looked at her. I was like, "Are you fucking with me right now?" And she's like, "No." I was like, "Okay." So I'm like, it's like, at this point, I'm like, we're laughing. I'm like, "Water. I need a water." And she just looked at me. She's like, "Wait,
I'm looking for a water."
And I said like that. I was like, "Water?" Like. It's like one of the things. It's like, since I moved out here, I refuse to drop my like Philly accent. It's just like you let people know I'm from Philly.
And you shouldn't. No, I'm a big fan of like maintaining local dialect. So
I know it's like like some of the different words, like even from bartending, people notice they'll pick up on. Like I had a girl sitting at the bar with her girlfriend, and this guy's like, I'll have a draft, and I'm like, oh, so you want a draft? Like it's like just like a couple of like the way things are different.
Well, I've never even heard people use a draw. I mean, we were talking about this before, like you said, like draft or whatever. I've never even heard people say it like that.
Or like I say apricot, and a lot of people say apricot.
Apricot, yeah.
I say like it's just like I draw out that A,
yeah.
And someone's like, "Oh, you're from Philly." I was like, "Yeah." It's like, "How can you tell?" It's like the way you said draft, and I'm like, "Oh, okay." It's like, "Yeah, I'm from Philly too," and I'm like, "Oh, that's cool." And here they're like my neighbors in Midtown. But you know, we had a good conversation about that. But like, she started like going off. So going back to the bartender, she's like, "I couldn't understand your dialect." You know? Just like. I was like,
this is a problem, Pennsylvania, right? If you can't understand like Philly dialect, right? I mean, then like, holy crap, like, you know, no wonder nobody leaves the state.
Well, like the Philly dialect's bad, but like you hear people from like northeastern PA,
yeah, Pittsburgh too,
like you when you hear people from like northeastern PA start talking, it's it's just as bad as the Philly accent.
Yeah, I don't like. I've never look. I'm not from Pennsylvania, and I have no problem and no difficulty understanding it. I think when I first heard people say "wooder," right, then I was kind of like I got a little smile on my face. Like it's like, now that's funny, right? Just because it's like, you know, wood, like tree stuff. Like you want wood or what? You know?
Yeah. And no, I say wooder all the time, and people like, oh, the bartenders will make fun of me, like wooder. They'll just go wooder. I mean, people used to do the same thing to me in college at Kutztown. When I say like wooder in the chemistry class, the chemistry professor, she'd start laughing at me as they would say wooder the whole time.
Yeah.
And then people would say like wooder. I'm just like, guys, shut the fuck up. I got a question I'm trying to ask here.
Exactly. Everything becomes about your accent as opposed to like the question you're trying to ask.
Yeah. And everyone's just laughing at that point. But no, it's funny. I think you could obviously tell by listening to the podcast I'm from Philly by the way I just say water.
Yeah, no, it's like, I mean, it's like, you know, this like it lines up to be like, you know, Sean Kitchen walks in a bar and asks for a glass of water, right? And then that's the first line of the joke, you know.
I know she just looked at me like dumbfounded for like this is like an awkward like Seinfeld segment. Like this is where that like this is where it was going at that point. Like this is just like a prolonged like 20-second Seinfeld skit.
Oh God, oh my gosh, there you have it, folks. Oh man,
bring some levity to the podcast.
Yeah, no man. So you're coming back from Thanksgiving, right?
Yes, I am.
And any good stuff you're bringing back?
Well, we have a bunch of Eternal Sunshine left. Dry hop sour. All Citra hops.
Sounds like good stuff. Did they make anything special for Thanksgiving or just the kind of stuff?
Just the cans we have out right now.
Just the cans you have out right now. Yeah, it's good. I had I mentioned this at the last podcast. Free Will just put out this Blue Farm, which is it's a saison and it's brewed with blueberries. Like coconut and milk, and it's got kind of milk sugar in it. It's like really, really nice. So I'll be getting you a bottle of that, sir. You got one for there. But I would highly recommend it. That if you're anybody's in the coming back into the kind of Percy, PA area, and if they have some of those bottles left, I don't know if they do. They come in. They're $16 a bottle, so it's like it's a bit pricey, but really nice for kind of like something special for Thanksgiving and that kind of stuff to share around a table. Really good stuff. I mean, absolutely loved it. And I'm also at the same time. I'm this Wednesday. I'm actually probably. I think I'm going to be dragging my kids to it because they're off from school. But Saccone Creek, we've talked about this before. It's got their first ever crowler release, and it's a New England IPA. Called Thorndors on a pogo stick, right? And as basically the way they set this up, they weren't sure how this was going to go off, so basically they did kind of invite stuff. You had to buy tickets for it, and you buy the tickets for 3 crowlers of this stuff. And it comes out on like the Thanksgiving Eve, so I'll be driving out to Kutztown, even though I don't have to be there. Right? So I'm actually going to drive out to Kutztown and pick up my crowlers, and Sean, you will be getting one of those too as well. So
yeah.
That's my good news for the week. I could have sworn I had something else to. This is the one thing. This is not exactly space news. I've been slacking on the space news the past couple of weeks. Just last week we just had way too much going on. Just to I was like, forget it. I had all this kind of cool beer stuff and just getting back from Niagara Falls and stuff. And so I was like, just gonna skip on the space news this week. The one thing this is kind of in the way that they break up some genres, like in books. Like it's like science fiction and fantasy, right? I don't know if you saw this, and I don't know if you even care about this either. And frankly, I don't care, Sean, because if you care about this or not. But Amazon, if I got this right, has just picked up the rights for was it Amazon or HBO? I think pretty sure it's Amazon. Just picked up the rights for Lord of the Rings, right? The trilogy, and they're going to have a TV series, right, based upon Lord of the Rings, and it's going to be actually like taking place before The Hobbit. So it's all going to be brand new material, not a rehashing of the of the books and things like this, or of the movies. But I'm just kind of like, this is another one of these things where I said, I should just quit my job, and this is what I should do with my time because it'd make me happier.
I was going to say, not space news related. Did you see what Tesla's released this week?
Is that the Roadster?
Well, they released the Roadster, but
And
they
the
also
truck.
released this truck.
Yeah.
A series of trucks that can go 500 miles on a single charge, like a modern 18-wheeler. This is with a full payload, and then like a truck can go like 250 or 300 miles. And then they also opened up a bunch of these supercharging stations that look like modern gas stations with like their own Tesla cafes in them.
Really?
Yeah.
How did I miss that?
So they're opening up these supercharging stations ahead, of their latest release. Making the push that for more green or more like battery powered vehicles.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that they have that. Apparently, they have. If I got it right, there's part of what they're trying to pair that with some of the self-driving technology too, as well, for the long haul stuff. That's just fascinating, man. If they release that, I just when I say I worry, I don't really worry about this stuff as much, but I really hope that we get electric cars get into the production to much that they're actually going to have a significant impact, and a lot of that is riding on Tesla getting this stuff right, because there's been a series of production delays now with the Tesla 3, which is the much more mass market that's going to come in at $35,000, right, which is going to be available. Oh, and by the way, in that Republican tax plan too as well that we talked about, right, they're also going to get rid of the tax break for electric plug-in cars. So, keep that in mind too as well. So it's one step away from climate solutions. But so what was put it $10,000 is significant, right? $10,000 brings a $35,000 car down to $25,000. That's still an expensive car for a lot of folks, right? But that puts it well within range, especially if you consider the fact that you won't be buying gas. But anyways, there's been a series of production delays. There's been some firings of some people at Tesla because of some of the issues with Tesla 3, and I think that the issues, again, Tesla has been this is the story of Tesla in many ways, that they're always over promising about how quickly they could deliver and that kind of stuff, but in the end, they produce this phenomenal product. So hopefully they're gonna not get too far out ahead of themselves by moving to the truck and moving to the Roadster. I really am hoping at least they're going to nail down the Tesla 3, and so that we start getting some kind of mass-produced electric cars that people can start driving, because we need it, man. We need something out there, I think, that is aspirational and where people can say that, look, we can do this. The truck is the thing that could actually have a huge impact on climate issues if they get it right, but I worry about it getting spread too thin and then ended up starting to produce crappy products, and I hope that doesn't happen. But yeah. So that's what I got, man. Anything else? Yeah. So anything else for the good of the order?
Yeah, all good to the order.
All good to the order?
All good.
I don't even know what the hell that means. Yep, all good to the order. Sean, anything else for the good of the order? Yep, all good to the order. Oh, man. All right, man. Well, I'll be tuned into my social media feeds throughout the day, looking for updates about Sean's reporting for the kind of the mystery actions that will be taking place sometime, in the future. So look to the end of the week. Sean and I are going to take the week off in terms of new content, like I said at the beginning of the show. But hopefully I'm going to be able to dig up some old interviews that came from some Raging Chicken's early days, well before we ever had a podcast, and kind of bring those things out. So look for that on Friday. If not, I'll have some. I'll put together something else for Friday, just so that you've got something to get through the whole kind of family fun that always takes place over the holidays. I'm glad, Sean, that you're going to be able to spend some time with the little one too as well.
Yeah. And no, it's my mom's 60th birthday on Friday too.
Oh,
so.
Awesome! That's fantastic.
Yeah, so we're gonna be having some fun down there. Usually celebrate on Thanksgiving, but I'll be down there so we'll see what's going on.
Cool, man. All right. Well, hey, safe travels this week, and I'm looking forward to seeing your stuff later today.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing. Looking forward.
Yeah, we can't. We just got to end this.
Yeah, it's just
let's just get this done.
Up till 2 in the morning.
Yeah, right. Exactly. All right. This is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken Press. We are going to be out of here in a second, but then I just realized that I just messed up my little soundboard. So now there we go. All right. This is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken Press. Next week, we'll be better. Or 2 weeks. See ya!
This is a canard. This economic philosophy stinks. It doesn't work, and it hammers working class people.